Hey, badasses, welcome back to the podcast today. Oh, today's going to be a goodie. We were talking before we hit record here, and I cannot wait. I have a million questions. So, super excited to introduce you today to Ella Parlor. She is a marketing powerhouse. She owns her own podcast. She has a consulting business, EP Consulting, where she's a business strategist and helps people be able to put together a badass business. She is also a best-selling author of a new book called High Tolerance, which we'll definitely get into. And I'm so excited to just introduce her to my audience today because this is a woman that understands the importance of building community, the importance of turnaround and helping other people coming up behind her. She understands what it takes to actually run an effective business and to get your brand out there and to market it. So we can go in a million different directions today. So hold on. I'm sure this one is going to be a good one. Ella, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background, how you got into being an entrepreneur yourself, and what led to this beautiful new book being written?
Kenya, thank you so very much for having me. And that introduction was so beautifully said. I don't know if I could live up to that. So thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. I actually wrote my book, High Tolerance, because I've received, these two questions over and over again, which is, I think we all get this question. What do you do? What do you do? And my work in marketing is so elusive for so many people. I think marketing is a hot buzzword now, but I've been in marketing for 16 years. And so I think that from a digital marketing standpoint, I'm a dinosaur. Like I used to do campaigns on MySpace back in the day. And so there are a lot of things that people don't understand about marketing. And so I feel a lot like I opened my first chapter talking about, like, I feel like Chandler Bing. Everybody knows what Phoebe and Ross and Monica and Rachel do, but what does Chandler do? What is Chandler? It's like, how do you explain that? And that's exactly how I feel. And so I really wrote the book to answer, this is what I do. This is how I've built my career. And then also, this is how I built the career. Like, these are the steps that I took to build what I have. I started off in the bottom. So most of my work has been in the beverage industry. And I started off as really a promo model, and from there I built what I have now is my consultancy firm, but also working as an executive at Fortune 500 organizations, as their internal marketing consultant to make sure that we're driving business, driving sales, creating initiatives. So it's really exciting. And we know that it's hard work, but I've just seen so many times that people build something and they almost forget how they built it. So I was like, let me take a step right now and write this story before my next chapter. But how did
Yeah.
I start my own business? How did entrepreneurship come onto my radar? This isn't the most attractive answer. I was approached. I was approached by two different individuals. And again, I talk about this in my book, but because of the work that I was doing in corporate America, I was approached by a former manager that I had worked with, and then also a former executive that I had worked with. So in two different situations, they were working for new beverage companies. One of them is a sports beverage that ended up getting sold for $1 billion to a very big beverage company that you 100% know. And I helped build the trade marketing plan for that brand, not knowing that they were positioning themselves to sell. And so after that experience, I was like, whoa, I didn't get equity in this company. I didn't even think to ask about that. I just was kind of consulting for them on an hourly basis. No, it's okay. Like, I don't hold it precious. I was young. I was in my 20s. I was in my early 20s. I think I was
Sure.
23 when that company sold. And to this day, I see it at every single store, every convenience store, every grocery store. And I know that I was a part of that legacy of that brand. I helped with the rebranding of their bottle, again, to position themselves to sell. So that was really exciting. And then the second time, an executive came to me asking for some help on some marketing initiatives. And that brand ended up selling for about 10 million probably could have been 20 million if all of us knew what we were doing. But this is when I started realizing, oh my gosh, I can take my experiences working with these billion-dollar companies, having these multi-million-dollar budgets, and scale it down to then empower smaller businesses to get the type of results that they want without having that $1 million spend, but having the knowledge of, no, this will move the needle or this won't. So because I have that experience of huge marketing spend, I have a pretty good idea of what's going to move the needle for a particular business, especially on the digital marketing front. And you can quickly analyze, like, is this working? Are we getting the ROI we want? So I feel very fortunate that I'm kind of I don't know. I'm still very corporate minded. I don't know that I'm as wild, wild west as some entrepreneurs. But I also really appreciate the freedom of owning my own business and kind of deciding what I do or don't want to do.
That I think that's incredible that you are still, when you say, I'm still kind of corporate, because us wild, wild west entrepreneurs that are out there are like, God damn it, I wish we had some processes that we could put into place here. So we have a hard time dreaming those up, which is also challenging. I think that's really a superpower when you come from corporate because you've learned the structure of systems and processes. And I think that's one of the biggest limiting factors for small businesses that I have worked with is that they have zero systems and processes. All their systems and processes are in one person's brain that started this business, and then they just remanufacture them every time they have to hire somebody, and they wonder why it takes so much time to scale. So I think that's a massive superpower that you probably bring a lot of insight to with these small businesses that you're consulting in the importance of making sure when you're a one-man band or a one-lady band, like you get the shit together now instead of waiting down the road and then you're trying to play catch up all the time. Now you're too busy and then it's a big old cluster, you know.
It's true. I will say SOP is my superpower. So while I am a marketer, I'm very operations and processes. So SOP just meaning like system operational processes
Mhm.
is that that's exactly what I like process. I like, and that goes to data, right? So really the process of how are we creating the product, whatever it may be, how are we marketing the product, how are we selling the product, and then making sure that all three verticals align with what we're trying to accomplish financially. And so that's where being able to be cross-functional and working across departments has been my strong point. I'm very much, I love numbers and I love people and I love them equally. I think often we'll see that some people, like if you work in a finance, if finance in your title, you're probably more of a numbers person than a people person. You'd rather crunch the numbers, look at the analytics. That's beautiful. That's great. But eventually people are kind of required for any business. Like you've got to be the people, you have to be for the people at some point. And that's where you hire these
Yeah.
sales individuals who are super people focused and love people, but then they don't always want to look at the numbers. So
Yeah.
it's finding someone who can be cross-functional and help, and building systems is exactly what I'm great at. I will also add that what I think a lot of smaller businesses don't understand as they scale and grow is new levels, new devils. I talk about this in my book. What made you successful yesterday is not going to keep you successful today. And as you build wealth, right, we know this, as you make more money, there are new laws that enter the chat. The laws that you have to play by when you're a smaller business with less than 10 employees is going to be a different set of laws once you scale to 20, 50, 100 employees. So as
Yeah.
you scale, the laws literally change, but also the rules of the game change. The expectations of your employees change. The expectations of your customers change. And you have to have SOP that is flexing with these pivots. And I think that a lot of times that's the piece that gets missed. Just because it made you successful in the 1980s does not mean that it's going to work today. But even then, like even for yourself, we all know like it's just constant evolution, constant fine tuning. And so that means that the good example is I'll say like if you have a CPA, the best blessing in the world is when your CPA fires you, because a CPA who can manage a $1 million business is not the CPA who can manage a $1 billion business. And if you have a good
Right.
CPA, eventually I hate to say it, but most CPAs are men. It's an unfortunate fact. And I always like to use pronouns to kind of call that out because I'd love to see more female CPAs out there. But when your
Yeah.
CPA, most likely a male, fires you because he's ethical and says, I can handle your $1 million business, but you're now at 5 million and that's beyond my capacity. And they're just new levels, new devils. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
not all of your team is going to be able to evolve with you. And that includes your accountants. That includes a lot of things. You want your people to evolve with you and develop your people along the way. But I think that this is again where SOP is so crucial and yet completely overlooked. I see it all the time. And exactly what you said, we don't even know why we're doing what we do, except that we've always done it this way.
Yes. If I remember hearing the saying, "What got you here won't get you there." Same thing with the people. These people helped you build a $2 million business. Now you have a $10 million business. Just because they've been a manager doesn't mean you move them up to now they're operations manager, you know? It's really, I think a lot of times in small business too, we try to get people to do a, a few things that maybe a few people's jobs maybe would have been dictated in corporate. And so you're like, well, you're really good at answering the phones and doing social media posts and writing my emails and, sometimes running to the post office for us and doing, like you'll hire somebody and be like, I can have them do a whole bunch of stuff. When you're doing a whole bunch of everything, you're really not good at anything. So as you're building a business too, it's defining what the roles are for people and letting and identifying what their superpowers are and letting them work in their superpowers. Just because there's somebody that's been with you tenure wise, that doesn't mean they become the next manager somewhere else. And I'm speaking from experience on this. I've had excellent service technicians that I'm like, yeah, they should be the field manager now. And they get to field manager and then they end up quitting because they're like, I don't want to manage people. I just want to come in and do my job every day. And that's okay because we need all the people to be able to make the business run. But don't be scared to be looking for the right people that are going to take you to the next level. I know we're like that in our business at this point. We've like hit the ceiling 3 years in a row, and it was very apparent after last year. I'm like, new level of people. We need new level of implementers, not just hiring more workers. It's hire implementers, creative people that will get us to the next level. As business owners, we have to think too, what is our level of where we're at? I can run this 2, 3, $4 million business pretty well. I got a handle on it. You're not going to be running a $10 million business like you were running that $2 million business. So you've got to have the mindset to really improve your skill level or bring someone in to help you do that too, which I think often, and I'd love to hear from your experience, is a huge bottleneck in small business getting bigger and the ability to scale.
Yeah, and it's a balance as too, because I think one of the first conversations that needs to be had really with any business owner for themselves before I even come into the chat. And I will say, working in CPG is so different than services. So CPG, for anyone who doesn't know, that's anything that you're buying and then you deplete it, like toothpaste, a drink, anything that you're buying and then getting rid of and then buying again, mouthwash, basically those things you find in the kitchen or the bathroom, toilet paper, those are all CPG products, right? And so those are products that are getting purchased and then they get run out and then you need more of it. For your services, that's not exactly how it works, right? Like you're doing a service and you might not have a quote repeat customer for, I mean, ideally a while. You don't want a customer who's coming back every month. That probably means that's an
Right.
issue in the business model, right? And so it's really looking at one, what is our business model in terms of our customer and consumer? And then two, what is my goal? What is my honest goal with this business? And a lot of business owners, one, are not honest with themselves, two, not honest with their employees. You go into it with the idea of selling your business, that's fine. But how you sell a business, a fast sell, we'll call it, where you're only building something so it will get purchased by someone else and you will get bought out and your book of business will get bought out. How you position that business is going to be significantly different than if you're trying to be the next. I like to pick on Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton, right? If you're trying to build the next legacy brand where you want people to remember your name and you want your family to be proud of the business that you created, then you're going to have to, unfortunately, that's going to be different. And what I think happens a lot of the times is business owners go into it wanting a legacy for their name, wanting to be the next Louis Vuitton of whatever their space is. And they want their kids wearing their name on a t-shirt very proudly, like, we own this. But then their business practices show me that what they're really trying to do is a fast sell. And what they really want is the fast money of someone else coming over and taking their business. And I'm like, you got to pick one and then stick to it, because they are very separate strategies. I have worked with iconic, global, long-term Louis Vuitton level brands. I say Louis Vuitton again because some of the companies I've worked with actually are minor owners of that LVMH company.
Mhm.
And so the parent company of Louis Vuitton. But like, if you want a legacy brand, you better understand that it's going to take a different approach, a different strategy, a different long-term vision. And that's going to mean that you're making very delicate decisions, not only in who you hire, but how you brand yourself, how you position yourself. If you're trying to get that quick sale, which I see a lot of companies doing, that's when you get yourself on TikTok and do silly dances for your brand. You're not trying to build a legacy. You're not trying to make your children proud. You're trying to get as many fast sales as possible. That's all well and good, but you can't do both. And that's where I
Yeah.
think kind of having that coming to yourself moment of like, okay, what am I building and why? You're going to hear this so many times as a business owner, and it's difficult, but you need to figure out, why are you building what you're building? Like, truly, do you know what you want? Because if you don't, and you're wavering back and forth between, I just want to pay my bills, or I want to send my kids to private school, or I want to be retired at 35, if you're going back and forth on what your true goal was in creating this brand, then your business practices are going to waver as well, and that's where you're going to have some issues. And so a lot of what I do is a lot more emotional for business owners, of sitting down and challenging them and saying, you say you want this, but your actions are showing me the following. So I'm not always my client's favorite, I'll be frank. I mean, I am, once the profits start coming through and the changes are made, and I'm usually able to make immediate changes, thankfully and prayerfully. Like, I am happy about that, but those initial conversations are usually pretty hard. And a lot of times, again, because almost every single business owner I've worked with is a man, because again, this is life, and we have to just honor that. And so I'll say, like, this is a conversation you need to take home to your wife, because
Yeah.
she'll probably know better. She'll probably know better than you even know. Like, why did you start this brand? Why did you start this company? Tell me. Like, we need to get to the heart of that, because if it's wavering, it's just never going to make sense for you. And then it's also having that honest conversation. Is a lot of owners need to step down. You're great. You had a
Yeah.
great idea. And a lot of owners don't. And it's like, and it's time to bring on a CEO.
Yeah.
You are part of that same people, honey. Like, the team that got you to where you are, yourself included, are not the team that are going to get you where you want to be. And so it's also kind of having that moment in the mirror where you say, oh, I need to step away from this business. I'm holding it back. And some
Yeah.
business owners white knuckle their ideas, and it's like, no, 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 no. This is a part of the
Yeah.
plan. And you see that happen a lot. I always love to look at Richard Branson and Elon Musk, because
Oh, yeah.
they have a big grip on their brands, but they also decided pretty early on they don't need to be the CMO and the CFO and the CEO. They had to hire out. You need other strategists. That's why you need a board. And so I know that's a little next level, like, depending on the size of your business, but you got to go into your business knowing that at one point you will no longer be the boss. And if you have to accept that, like, in some way or another, because you can't. You're not a one-man show. And if you are long
Yeah.
enough, then that probably shows a lack of growth.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Because so many people think, I gotta stick around. If I'm not here, it's not gonna run. I hear people say that all the time. If I'm not there, it's not gonna run, or it's not gonna be done properly. You gotta like, building a business is a big ass ego check. to me, because at some point you have to be willing to say, this is not my place anymore. I'm getting to that point in my service business where I'm like, I love working on this business and creating new opportunities and doing things. But the title that I hold at my business is holding me back from doing those things. Let's get somebody in here that can manage the people and can do the things that you don't necessarily enjoy doing. And I think so many business owners stick with shit that they don't even want to be doing or they're not great at, and they're continuing to work on their weaknesses. And you're like, now you just have a bunch of still weaknesses, like they're a weakness because you don't want to focus on them. You don't genuinely like them. Step into your strengths and hire the rest of that stuff out. Provide opportunity to do that. And don't be afraid to hire. I think that's something with small businesses too. They wait way too damn long to hire somebody. And at this point now, that it's like such a rat's nest that they don't know what to do, or bringing someone in is going to scare somebody to death that it's a disaster. So don't be afraid to do it. Once you hire somebody, you're like, how the hell did I ever function without you? I know I did that for far too long. So that's a big part of it as well. And involving
Yeah.
people as you grow this business. It's so important. You get your team rallied around it, they'll be excited to have extra help that you're unable to provide to them.
Amen. And they will be ambassadors of your brand. You have no idea the network that your team has. You really don't. And I've seen that as well. The universe works in such a wonderful way that there is opportunity all around you. And a lot of times we just put our blinders on unwittingly. I will also say that one of the expectations for business owners when they hire someone, and I will say I struggle with this. So I have a very tiny team of 3. My business has technically only been an LLC for 6 months, so it's still pretty new. Even though I've been operating as a sole proprietor for 9 years. And so I know this, I've given this advice, but of course, taking your own advice, like you realize how bitter your
Mhm.
medicine really is when you taste it yourself, is accepting, a lot of times we hire someone expecting them to be 110, 150% of us. So it's like, well, if I'm doing this and I was doing it for myself, quote, for free, which is never free, like everything you're doing is being monetized in some way, even if it's just your time. But, I struggle with this because I'm like, well, I could have made a better social media post, right? I would have done it better. It would have been more on brand. It would have been more in my voice. Okay, stop looking at 100. Expect 70%. So when hiring someone, don't expect that someone's going to be better than you. Yes, at sometimes, like for me, finance is not my strongest point. So my next hire would likely be a finance individual. And so I just need them to be 70% of my work, not expecting them to be 150% of what I can do. And I think a lot of times we have this ridiculous expectation that this person's going to be 10x better than we are. Well, my love, if they were that talented, they'd probably own their own business and kick you to the curb. So you have to understand that your team is never going to be you. They're not going to measure up to you. But 70% is the number that I would say, like, feel good. If they're at 70%, you're doing okay.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh my gosh. So good. So good. So good. So we were talking too before we hit record on here, just how important, since we're talking about business and where it's at with everything, like the importance of, we both work in male dominated industries, very much so. Marketing, still very, very male, very male. You worked in alcohol beverages, very male. I worked for Anheuser-Busch for a long time too, so we have that in common as well. Kind of got into that the same way as well. And it's fascinating. I've always worked in male-dominated industries, always. I grew up in construction family in Wyoming on a farm, male. Went to the beer business, definitely male. Back into home service companies, super male. Only 4% of the labor force in home service and trade industries are female. 4%. And the ownership of that is 0.04% of women that 100% own a home service or home specialty trade business. It's insane. It's absolutely crazy. But there is such a difference, if you will, when you experience a business that has female leadership in it and there are female just qualities that are brought in to this business? It could be the fact that women are really great at building communities and building teams and getting people to believe in them. I truly believe that most women have a very natural tendency to be a leader if they're confident enough to put themselves out there to do it. I think they're really great at it. Talk to me a little bit about what your experience has been working in a male dominated industry as long as you have, and what you think women bring to these fields and why we need to continue to encourage women to enter them.
Mhm. So I get asked this question a lot, and I heard something really beautiful from Amy Schumer, because she gets asked this question a lot from a comedian. Female comedians are having a moment, which is amazing, but let's be real, comedy has very much been dominated by male comedians.
Yeah.
And so someone asked Amy Schumer and said, "Do you find it hard to be a female comedian?" And she responded, and it really hit me. She said, "I think it's just hard to be a female no matter where you are. Like, even if you're a teacher, which is an industry that is, education is overwhelmingly at the elementary level, overwhelmingly dominated by females, right? And I
Mhm.
would say that female teachers have their own issues, and I don't think that being in a male dominated or a female dominated or a equally place, I think being a female in general is just difficult. And if we can just admit that for a second and not feel bitter about it, not have a chip on our shoulder, but just accept that we're all dealt different cards for different reasons. I am a Black Mexican
Yeah.
woman, so people love to really point out that I'm a minority. I'm a triple minority. I get it. But I love it. I love it. I stand out. I bring a different perspective. I think that it's important. And the reason why I'm such a proponent for diversity, I'm using this word with quotations, diversity, is because I'm not talking about skin color. I'm not talking about gender. Just diversity of thought. We need your team should not be 100% clones of you, whatever you are. I would be really freaked out to meet a clone of myself because I do feel like I'm a very rare gem. Like, find me a Black Mexican woman, literally find me one and let me know her name because I can name maybe two that I've ever met. I'm the only Black Mexican in my own family, right? So in my own family, I'm a minority. So like, I don't think of it's just we're all family, we're all blood, we're just different, and that's fine. I don't think of it as like oh, I'm the only one. I always was raised to believe that family is what you make of it. My dad's adopted, right? So I have all these ideas of like, all right, I don't want to focus on what makes us different. I want to focus on what makes us the same. What shared beliefs do we have? And furthermore, I don't want to hire a bunch of mini Ellas. I think I'd be annoyed. We would never shut up. We probably wouldn't get enough work done. So it's important to value diversity of thought. Your entire team should not look like clones of you, and they should not all think like you do. You want people who are going to challenge you and stretch you in a direction that you need. And so for women, I would say if you are in a space where you look around your work environment and it's a bunch of women who think and act like you, are you really getting the growth you need? I don't know. I love being a female in a male dominated space. I really do. I think
Mhm.
I do at times have a chip on my shoulder. Like, I very much have a, excuse my language here, but like, my balls are bigger than yours and I'll prove it kind of mentality. And that's not always healthy. That's not healthy. I admit that's not, it, it turns some people off. We'll say that if I come into a room swinging heavy. But I do have this idea because I have been the only female in a room of 200 men, and I'm on stage in a
Mhm.
tight skirt presenting, that I'm like, if this group of men decided to just literally attack me or something, like, what am I gonna do? You had this a little bit of this fear creeps in, and then you go, hell no, I'm Ella Parlor. Welcome to my show. These are the things that we're gonna get done. And when you have talent and when you have proven metrics, like, the rest will speak for itself. it's hard for me because as a triple minority, I have this chip on my shoulder that people think I'm only there because I'm a diversity hire, or I'm only got this job because I'm like the only, XYZ that checks certain boxes. So I have this chip on my shoulder that I need to get over, that no, I'm here because of my talent, not just because I'm the only female. And I have at this point, through experience, the record to prove it. But absolutely, ladies, like, it's awesome. It's awesome being able to bring new ideas to the table that nobody else has thought of. This is why I'm focused on diversity of thought, not just what you look like, not just what your background is, not just your genitalia. Forget all that. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
like, no, let's start thinking differently for the sake of growth, and strategic growth at that.
Yes. The confidence that you can bring walking into a room. I've done that plenty of times too. You go to a construction meeting, you walk in, they're like, that's the girl that's here that's going to talk to us about sewer systems. Like, let's test her. But I know my shit. Literally. And there is nothing more powerful than walking into that room knowing that you know what you know. Because when you are confident in your skill set, regardless of the fact that I got hired because I was a female and they needed to fill the roster or not, I'm still going to knock their socks off, and they will never think for 2 seconds when I left that room that I was only there as this pity hire that they had to have put on stage. So confidence is everything in what you're doing with that. I think it's huge too, because I think when a woman walks into the room, you need to understand the amount of power you have in a room full of men. Because a woman can walk into the room and be like, oh, okay, we're either going to these men are going to think we don't have to like show up 100%, or that confidence she's bringing when she walks into that room is really going to level them up as well. So I think we need to remember the extraordinary power that we carry, even if you're the only one in the room, that you elevate standards of everybody that's in there, regardless of who it is. And I know a lot of women that listen to this podcast are in the home service trades industry, and many times may think, well, I'm the only female, or I'm only this. And this is why we love to have these conversations. It's because you're not. You're not the only one. And even though it's a small little 4% or a small little 0.04%, if you're an owner that's going into this, fucking rock it. Like, let people know that you're there and that you mean business just like everybody else. And that opens the doors for more women to want to be able to say, she did it, so can I. So we have to talk about this so that it is something that is appealing for more women to jump into, and not be fearful that they're going to get run over or anything like that. There are so many communities that exist in the world now with the virtualness, if that's a word, virtualness, it is now. You can find communities of people just like Ladies Kicking Ass and what Ella is doing with her podcast, where you can learn to build that confidence. You can learn from other women that are doing stuff that you're doing. Tell me, Ella, what the importance of building a community has meant for you and what that's done for success with your business.
Oh, community building is so very
So,
important to me. My parents are, in their own right, social justice warriors, I say. My father was not only a Marine Corps officer for the United States, but also a police officer. And so I grew up with a vigilant belief in service and community. I grew up volunteering a lot. I still do. Volunteering and service are very important to me. And my work is so important to me, and knowing that even through selling alcohol, which again I talk about in my book, you might think, well, you're selling booze. Like, are you really building communities? Are you really helping people? Are you really empowering people?
yeah.
Heck yes. Heck
Yes.
yes. I, you get to build some amazing communities, because I will say, politics, left, right, up, down, north, south, American, not American, whatever. Sit down and have a cup of whiskey or tea, right? Non-alcoholic tea. Sit down and have a drink with someone, and you'll realize that you are so much more alike than not. And community building is
Yeah.
so important. We don't even step outside of our front door, look left to right. Do you know the name of your neighbors? Do you? I mean, when I move into a neighborhood, I'm that person that like bakes cookies and like sends little cards and gives everyone my phone number, because I'm like, you already know
Yeah.
where I live. Like, they're like, if you wanna
Yep.
murder me, you're gonna do it, but, like, my phone number ain't gonna change that, but if my music's too loud, you can call me, you don't have to call the cops, or if there's something suspicious, let me know, and by the way, that has happened before, but I'm a single woman who lives alone. I say single not in terms of my dating status, but just I'm not married, right? So I always say single until married, ladies. Even if you have a long-term boyfriend, you're marking single on your taxes to Uncle Sam, you is single. I hate to say it, but, as a single woman living alone, I kinda want my neighbors to be looking out for me, right? And we
Yeah.
can be afraid of our neighbors, but they're your dang neighbors. Like, if they're gonna hurt you, they're gonna hurt you, except that this is a part of the community building. Like, you want someone who's gonna look out for you and say, "Hey, I saw someone suspicious. Are you okay? I heard a weird noise. Are you okay?" We don't even do that anymore. We quite literally do not offer a cup of sugar to our neighbor. That to me is sad, and I'm not kidding when I say, like, I write little notes for my neighbors when I move into a new place. And I think that community building can literally start at home. Now scale that further into service. Whatever you are doing in your business, I don't care what it is you are selling. I don't care what it is you are giving. I don't care if it's nonprofit. It should always be in the pursuit of serving communities. You
Mhm.
gotta be in service of others, and then you can build a community where there is a synchronicity and you are helping each other and you are empowering each other and you are sharing stories of success and failure, because I think we learn more from the failure stories, quite frankly. And so for me, the community that I've been able to build and where I feel so honored and grateful has been, yes, at work. A lot of my business has come from referrals because of the community that I've built. But again, same way, like, you new levels, new devils, like, eventually you're gonna have to keep leveling up and building out your community. I
Yeah.
also make my values known. Like, I would hope that with a quick Google search or a quick snoop into my social media, that you are very quickly seeing, like, what my values are. My values are community, service, giving, confidence, as you mentioned, empowerment, inspiration. And so I want to attract other people who value these things. I don't
Yeah.
value fancy cars, for example. That's not a value for me. Kudos to you if you have a car collection in your garage. That's awesome. That's not one of my values. That is not where I don't put value on that. And so I want my ideal in building my community is like, okay, is it based upon the integrity of community service, giving, generosity, building each other up, being inspired, being empowered. And that's really what motivates me because, man, I have some hard days. I had a hard week, and I have days where I cry my eyes out, and it's only because of the community that I have that I'm able to go, all right, let's wipe our tears, pick ourselves up, get on this
Yeah.
podcast, right? And keep moving.
Yes. Oh, I love that. My friend Lindsay Schwartz says often that you need three kinds of communities. You need one that you can learn from, you need one that you can teach things to, and you need one that you can collaborate with. And it is really feeding your soul on so many different levels that you are giving back by helping. You're consistently growing by learning from something. And there is nothing more empowering than being able to collaborate with women. When you get together with women that want to build shit instead of talk shit, it is a whole nother vibe at a whole nother level. And that is
Mhm.
something that as I have gotten older at 42 now, I'm like, I don't have time for the talk shit stuff. I don't want friends like this anymore. There's a reason and a season. And if I had them at that point, fantastic. I just don't tolerate that shit anymore. You create the communities that you accept. So create stuff that you are getting and giving and collaborating and building awesome stuff with. At this point in my life, most of my friends are business owners too, because as an entrepreneur, those are things that I'm interested in. If I'm having a conversation with somebody that is not interested in business, doesn't want to own a business, isn't part of this, can I be friendly with them? Sure, still. But what is it that is bringing enrichment into your life? And I think as women, sometimes we struggle with thinking, well, I have to still do this because I don't want to hurt their feelings. And I have to keep this low frequency community around me because of whatever. And I air quote that too, because it's all just bullshit we tell ourselves because we don't want to make anybody feel bad. It is not your job to do that. It is your job to evolve, though, and to find these communities. That is why this entire podcast exists, is because I was like, I need a community of badass ladies, and I'm having a really hard time doing this, going to networking events, and it's nothing but MLM people, and bless their hearts, they're fantastic at this, but I don't want Mary Kay and I don't want a diet shake today. Like, I need badasses that are building businesses and service, and we have the same problems. Like, how do you market this? How do you do this? It's not a handbook. So find a place and pull up a chair. Stop waiting to be invited to come to these places. That's a big problem that we wait for too. You don't have to be anointed to get into these places. Just pull up a chair, talk to people, ask them about them instead of just asking about their business. See how you can connect. That doesn't even have anything to do with your business. It's amazing who knows who. Like, so many times we're like, well, that person could never help me. They may be in a completely different industry and know people that could totally partner with you and change the entire trajectory of your business. So just be curious and continue to visit communities until you find something that will elevate those three aspects of your life of giving, of serving, and being able to build something with somebody.
Yeah, and I love what you said
Yeah.
because when we talk about low vibrational, low frequency circles, and it's because we're tied to certain types of people who were there for us in our past, and we want to honor and love those individuals. But I will say that as we evolve, you will notice, and sometimes it's your family, sometimes it's your closest friends, sometimes it's your coworkers, whoever it might be. There is this fear that happens when we see someone we love evolve because we worry they're going to outgrow us. And you brought up a great point. There are people that you outgrew because of your pursuit of entrepreneurship, right?
Mm-hmm.
That quite frankly scares me because like none of my girlfriends, like none of my best friends own companies. So like if I'm not ready to lose my crew yet, but our values are built upon a shared value of what family means, right? So my community, my close girlfriends who are still my best friends from high school, like our values are based upon our family values. Like they are my sisters. Like we love each other. I love their children like they're almost my own, right? And so just like you might have a literal sister who doesn't need to be an entrepreneur for her to be your soul sister. I think that when you
Mm-hmm.
have those shared values, but a big part of that we as women are so afraid to do, and this is why I love what you're creating here, I love speaking out, is that not only do you need to be open and building communities, you gotta open your mouth. I always say closed mouths don't get fed, ladies. Like, you want to start investing in real estate, speak about it, because it's only if you speak about it that someone will say, oh, my brother does that, let me introduce you. And we are so afraid to admit what we want. And I have learned
Yep.
that just by a simple conversation, I talk about this in my book, you guys, like in my book, so many times, a lot of my success literally came from I had a simple conversation of saying what I want. Not, hey, give me this, I want it right now. It's, I was thinking about doing this, but I'm just so overwhelmed because I don't know how.
Yep. Yes. Oh my gosh. And that's a great little segue, anyways, because I want to talk to you about exactly what you just said about real estate investing. This is something, talking about not opening your mouth, many women may want to pursue. They're like, but I don't have the husband to help me do this yet. And I don't know how to do this. And I'm not just like throwing every woman under the bus by saying this, but many times with those big things like that, we're like, we have learned either growing up with this thing or just kind of have this default mode of like, I need somebody to help me and it has to be a partner or something. You have definitely gotten into real estate investing as a single woman. And it is something that you were like, I don't have to wait around for my Prince Perfect to show up in order for me to start building wealth for myself. Anyone that listens to this podcast knows that I'm a huge proponent of women making sure you have your own shit together too, because you cannot be dependent on anybody else. Talk about power. Make sure that you have the power to take care of yourself. And a big thing of that you're seeing a lot of women move into is really gaining the knowledge and learning how to do real estate investing. So, Ella, I would love to hear how the hell you got into that to start with and why you wanted to do it and how's it going?
Well, I will say, and I feel very, again, compelled to be open about this and transparent. I only started investing just in the market, meaning stock market, stocks. I only started investing in 2018. And so in a lot of ways, this is all very new for me. I was in my late 20s. And I want to share this story because I think a lot of women can relate. And if I get emotional, I do apologize. It's been an emotional week anyway. I'm a crybaby. It happens, but let's hope I can keep it together. Before my
It's great.
30th birthday, I was making six figures. I had about um $30,000 saved, okay? And I felt really proud of myself. I'm like, I'm not 30 yet. I got a great job. I'm gonna invest in a property. But I'm from Southern California and I grew up on the beach. And I only qualified for a mortgage that was about, I think, $350,000. And this was in like 2017, 2018. And I got a reality check that won't even get you a lot in California. And I felt really sad because all this empowerment of like, I'm a badass woman, I'm making six figures, I got 30K in cash, who wouldn't want to be me? And then I'm being told over and over again, well, if you had a second income, in fact, even if you were making less money but you had a second income, you'd qualify for a much higher mortgage. But because it's just you on your own, sorry, like this is where it's at. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm being punished for being single? Because, and this is no offense to you, Tanya, but like when I see women who are like, whatever, I'm like, okay, but did you do it on your own? Because let me tell you, it's a whole lot easier to get a business loan when you got a husband. It's a whole lot easier to get a mortgage when you got a husband. And boy, do I want a husband. I never asked to be a single independent woman. Jesus, I've been asking for this husband. Where he at? But here I am, right? Like, it is what it is. This is my circumstance. And I never asked to be building all this alone. And so I was just devastated because I felt like my own status as a single woman was being weaponized against me. Of like, not only do I not have the partner that I crave, I do not have the family that I want to build, but I'm being told that I can't even purchase something because I'm single, because I'm not enough, I don't have enough. It was demoralizing, just demoralizing. And then I ended up having several surgeries and medical issues and all these things subsequently. And so that money that I saved, like money comes and goes, right? Up and down. I've spent over $200,000 in medical bills. Talk about that in my book about a lot of the issues that I've had from a health perspective. And again, doing it all alone as a quote, single woman, not alone. I have a beautiful community, but I'm just saying, like, not having that partner, like still having to put my parents' names down for emergency contact forms is like, again, very demoralizing, but it is what it is. So fast forward to last year, very similar situation. I have money saved in the bank. I have time. I'm in a new market. I'm living in Texas. Housing's more affordable here. I go and apply for a mortgage and I get the same damn number that I got in 2018. I only qualified for a mortgage of $350,000 6 years later, guys. Why was that? Well, because my credit was affected by some of my medical bills. And same story. Well, if you had a second income, and I don't want to put my parents' name, like I'm not trying to get a house in my parents' name. There's a part of me that refuses to do that. I'm like, this is BS. And so I'm frustrated and I'm crying because once again, I feel like I'm being told by the universe, by the world, by society that Ella, you don't have a man, so you are not enough and you don't have enough. And that feeling of inadequacy is so painful when you're a woman in your 30s and you're just trying to make it work. I want a family. I don't know why I haven't been blessed with one yet. I don't know, right? But I broke down and I start crying to one of my girlfriends. And I tell her, I am so sick of feeling like I'm not enough. I'm sick of feeling broken. I'm sick of systems telling me that my hard work and my success still isn't enough because I know I'm in a better financial position than a lot of women and most women in this country. And it's still not enough. how are any of us going to do it? And it was through that conversation that she said to me very nonchalantly, why don't you just start investing in real estate? She was like, do you really want to live in a house by yourself anyway? Like, do you really want to live alone? Like, and then if a pipe bursts, you have to fix it. Like, at least in an apartment, you have all these amenities and you don't have to fix anything. And she's like, but when you're in a and as I started talking to her, I'm like, you're kind of right. Like, I don't think I want to live in a house alone. Like, I'd have to install these security cameras and then I'm living alone and I don't have neighbors. And oh, like, I just started thinking about that. And I'm like, you're kind of right. Like, I do like living in a high rise that I can feel safe and away from people. And so instead of buying my own homestead, it was through her and talking to her that she was like, I've been investing in real estate for X amount of years. And she was like, you can build equity this way. And so money that I had saved to buy my own house, I've now invested into the market as a private money lender. And I feel so empowered. And I'm like, wait a minute, you don't need as much money as you would for a mortgage. And so what's going to happen is, as I'm taking my money and making it work for me and giving it to other investors who are flipping the money, renting the money, doing whatever they do, depending on the business deal, is that my money is growing. My money is growing. It's not just sitting in a bank account. And I like, not only do I feel empowered, but I'm also building more wealth. So that way, when it's time to buy my homestead, whenever that might be, a year now from two, when I'm more comfortable with it, not only do I have more cash because I made my money work for me, but I have a better network now of real estate professionals who are in the market, vetting the market, know the market, all of these things that I didn't have 1 year ago. It's only been 1 year. And I cannot believe what a blessing it was that I didn't get that mortgage that I thought I deserved or whatever the circumstances were. Those were all blessings. Everything that's happening to you, I promise it's happening for you. It's not happening to you and it's painful. I was so sad and sobbing that I'm crying to one of my best friends. And it was through that conversation that she revealed a strategy I didn't know existed. And I think
Yeah.
we as women just don't talk to each other enough. We're just not talking. I will say a lot of my married friends, I try to have conversations like this with them, and they're like, "Oh, my husband handles all that. Like cryptocurrency, don't know it. My husband does all that." And I look, more power to you, honey. That's just not my story. That's not my situation.
Sure.
I got to do it on my own and hope that when I do get blessed with the husband that I want and that his heart is being prepared for me and our situation, that he will look at the work that I've done as a value add that I can bring to whatever he's building right now.
Hell yes. That, oh my gosh. You're a massive catch, Ella. It is incredible that you choose to build this on your own. It is a genuine reason for building it. You know what I mean by that? Like, there's not really anything behind this. It's not like I'm building it for my kids. I'm building it for this. You're genuinely building it for yourself. And you're an incredible example of what all of us can do when you actually focus on building something for yourself. I'm married. I was a single mom for a long time. I started this business that I run now as a single woman. My husband now comes and works in the business with me, but it's still one of those things that is a little bit of a different situation. And that's great because you're building something for yourself. And what an incredible partnership that will lead to someday when it's not just, hey, I'm just looking for a man. Like, I bring shit to this table too, and this is what I bring, and it's a whole nother level of relationship that comes from that. It's an incredible thing, having been married when I was much younger, and then having walking into something where you've got some assets and some accolades under your belt. It's a whole different story. So I'm super excited for you as
Yeah,
to what the future looks.
I do want to share on that note. I have a girlfriend who married a multimillionaire. He's wonderful. They have a beautiful marriage. And she revealed to me again through a conversation that I had similar to the one I just mentioned that one of her deepest regrets was that she met her husband before she's like, everything I built was after I got married. And I feel like on the outside, everybody just assumes that it was him and his wealth. But I kind of piggybacked on
Yeah.
it. She goes, they don't understand that I was saving and that I was working on things. And yes, his experience in business has helped me. Yes, his name, his connections, all that, they have helped me. I'm not denying that. She goes, but you have the blessing of building things on your own so that when your likely successful husband comes along, that there will be that piece of, no, I still have this piece that of the pie that is mine and that I do bring value to the table. And she said that while her husband completely respects her, that she has to deal with people kind of rolling their eyes at her saying, but you didn't really build this yourself. Like, you had help because he's a multi-millionaire. And so I think that everybody's story has a caveat. Everybody. And it's not our judge to point the finger and it's not our place to point the finger and judge. It is our place to say, hey, you have something that I kind of want to have too. Like, how did you build this? And just have conversations with each other instead of making assumptions like, oh, well, she only got that because of X, Y, and Z, or it's just
Bingo.
because of who her dad is, or it's just you don't know people's situations. You don't know the behind the scenes, and you're never going to know it if you're not having honest, earnest conversations with the people to learn the behind the scenes.
Yeah, it goes right back to what we were talking about before when you were talking about the Amy Schumer comment, You're a woman. It's instantly going to go to default in the popular world that we live in that you got there because some man helped you get there, or you sucked your way to the top, or you did this, or you did that, like, let's
Yeah.
just talk about it for what it is. And there's a lot of badasses out there that are making really awesome moves. And those are the women we're going to continue to celebrate and keep talking about and keep showing as an example of what is possible. Because the more women that keep showing up and talking about stuff, it's showing the younger generation, even women that are older than us, what is actually possible of doing stuff. Do you ever see a man walk into a room and he's like, well, I kind of did this, and they like downplay their shit. They like walk into the room and like beat their chest, like, I am men, hear me roar situation. And damn it, if we actually celebrate something and promote something on social media, like, hey, I was a badass this last year, and this is what my business did. Let's talk about the fact that a business is making $2 million as a female owned business. That is so rare. It's so crazy that, and women don't want to talk about it because they're afraid of what other women are going to say about them. Please fucking talk about it. Like, there's more women that need to hear you say that. And the ones that are getting pissed off at you aren't the ones that are doing stuff and are going to create things. You have to let that go, because no one that's doing as much or more than you are will ever criticize you for your wild, crazy ideas or for the accolades that they've had. When you get that high energy community around you, they will celebrate the shit out of you and then make fun of you if you don't celebrate yourself. So have those women in your lives. When you change that, everything in your life changes. You realize what is actually possible out there for you to be able to do, because you've got a bunch of women behind you cheering you on. That's the best cheering squad you could ever have.
Yep. And
I
exactly what you
can't.
said, it goes back to your network.
Yes.
It's
Can't
exactly what you
promote
said.
that enough. Like, everybody has to build a community of stuff. If you feel like you're alone in things, get your ass to a networking event or go somewhere, go to a coffee place and say hi to somebody that's sitting next to you. Like, you have to stop being scared to be, like we said before, be invited and just continue to sit in the background. That just does not bode well. Ella, this has been such an incredible conversation. Just the background that you have of being in business, I could talk to you for hours, girl. But if people want to connect with you and they want to learn more about your consulting business, where to get your book, how to listen to your podcast, where's the best places for people to find you?
The easiest place to find me is going to be on my website. It's ellaparlor.com. I'm migrating it right now, so it might not be the prettiest yet. We're working on some things on the back end, but it should be done in about it should be done. I don't think a website is ever done, but it should be somewhat updated in the next month. But Ella Parlor is where you can find everything. You can find my book, you can find my business, you can find my social medias. I'm Ella, your Bella, here to serve you on all social media platforms. And then my book High Tolerance is available at Amazon, Walmart, Barnes and Noble, Costco, Target, and about 40,000 other independent bookstores. So just walk into your favorite independent bookstore and ask them to order High Tolerance for you, and I promise they probably should be able to, if they're in the system. So it's really ellaparlor.com. Ella Parlor, I should learn how to say my own name, .com. And I'm always open and happy to connect with other individuals who are just trying to make the world a better place, one conversation, one company at a time.
That is amazing. And what I would love to be able to do to support you too, the first 3 people that reach out to us through Instagram on Ladies Kickin' Ass, I would love to send you one of Ella's books, because I'm sure that the stories inside of that will just inspire you, if anything. And, just it's learning the background, and it's learning the story of someone else. And I think so many times we forget the power that is in each of our individual stories. Many times we try to hide things. We're not proud of stuff. There's been failures, so we feel like we're not qualified to do things. That is so untrue, because it's many of those failures that qualify you to help other people. And I know we can get down on this. I had a freaking meltdown with my husband last night. I'm like, I'm failing at everything. It's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, but I feel like I am. It's okay to have those too, and to be normal with that, because we do feel like those things. But failure is an event, it is not a person. And that is where listening to and learning other people's stories, which I'm excited to read in your book as well, I think are just so incredibly important. And that's why we have this community of ladies kicking ass. Ella, at the end of every podcast, I love to ask every one of my guests how they resonate with this term, because I think it's really awesome that for some women, kicking ass is an identifier for them of building a business. Kicking ass for some women is the identifier of being a really awesome mom. Kicking ass can be taking a break because you've been in hustle mode for so long that that's real hard for you to do. I'm sure you can identify with that. But when you hear the phrase ladies kicking ass, what does that mean to you in your life?
Well, I will say in a couple ways. One, I'm a trained fighter, so I started training in different various martial arts when I was 4 years old. So when it comes to kicking ass, that has been my tagline for a very long time. That was my MySpace header. That was my Facebook header. It still might be actually on Facebook, kicking ass and taking names. That used to be my headline. So that's what I think of in terms of the older me, is physically being able to hold my own on a mat. But I will say that in life today, when I think of ladies kicking ass, it goes back to what we talked about on today's episode, building communities. You can't kick ass on your own. You got to have a community that is rallying around you, that is supporting you, that is identifying the blind spots you might not be able to see. Because I had a heart-to-heart with a girlfriend today that was calling me out on my funk. She was like, Ella, this is not what you need to be doing. So it's important to have beautiful, both like-minded shared values. I don't mean like-minded, shared valued individuals where you can build a community off of shared values, not being the same, but sharing the same innate values. You will be so amazed by how you can kick ass with your community, your family, your friends, just by showing up in the world in numbers.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you so much for all of your knowledge, for sharing your story with us today, and all your wisdom of all of your experience that you have built this far. And I can't wait to see where you go. So everybody will tag the book, we'll tag everything. Again, first 3 people that reach out, I will be happy to send you one of Ella's books. And let's support Ella and the things that she is working on. I'm so proud to have you be part of the Ladies Kicking Ass community now. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Tanya.